you know, and what's happening to the children who are growing up later on in life. Now, we can look at the Aboriginal situation because it's closest to us here in BC and in Canada in particular, and we can say um, all of, not all of our native friends, but a good portion of our native friends have serious alcohol problems, serious drug problems. Um, they don't know how to properly, um,
And that's because the family unit has
oh,
been literally
destroyed.
destroyed.
That
You know, their
they're
parents and their grandparents and their great grandparents. A lot of
foster
people don't
homes,
even,
residential
yeah,
school, you know,
abuse,
and
sexual
and
assault.
if this is the model, that we're trying to project, um, then it's been a failure since day one, and then we should start trying to do something else. Because now we know that in foster care, 80% of Caucasian children that are in foster care do not receive a diploma. Okay? So, wow, bad parenting. They come out drug addicted because 65% of them, or 12 times the national average, are on drugs when they come out of foster care. They have the highest
It's
suicide
not
rate.
bad parenting.
It's bad
Well,
something because
let
they're
me,
in
yeah,
they're in foster
let
home
me
call.
explain my point of view on that though, because it's not that, because a lot of people are under the impression that the statistics on foster children, which are quite grave, are the result of the children coming from homes where they were abused, neglected, treated like shit.
Oh, I'm talking
No,
about the
just let
foster
me
homes
finish my point.
or in the foster
Yeah,
care
let me
program.
finish my point.
Okay.
People who, people who, people tend to think that they come from homes that are crap. I know what you're saying. But they go to the foster homes, and it's not about bad parenting because foster parents don't parent. Like my daughter got pregnant in foster care. Why? Because the foster parents were always at work, and then after work they were in the house, she was in the trailer. Like, I mean, no one's watching her. You know what I mean? Like, they're not parenting. They're not even babysitters. You know? They just provide food and a place for them to shower and sleep. Look at Ashley. She never even sees her foster mother. You know?
True.
I mean, that's not parenting at all. There is no similarities. I mean, I do know people who are foster parents and they've had the same kid forever, or different kids, and they're good people and they do their best, right? But,
But okay,
you know,
now I had when we were discussing this
They're
video
the
earlier.
exceptions rather than the rule.
yeah, exactly,
Thanks, man.
they're the exception, not the
Yeah.
rule.
Now there was
Yeah.
something I was thinking about while we were discussing this, and um, it has to do with your family name. Years ago when immigrants were coming into the country, and if the parents died on the trip over, the children would assume a different name. And I mean, they have a commercial on CBC that shows, okay, your name was
Oh yeah.
Hutchinson, now it's McDonald, and your name was this, and now it's this, and you're going to go with this family, and these are going to be your new parents, and that was it. And those kids then, assumed a new identity.
Mhm.
Well, that's wrong from the get-go, because when you start reaching an age of maturity, which is usually between your 20s and 30s, questions start coming into your head. Where do I
Hopefully
come
it's
from?
earlier than 30.
What do I why do I do this, and why do I do that, and where do all these different characteristics come from? And it would be nice to know who you came from, and
Mhm.
that's where the foster program fails, because and the social service, the MCFD or CSAS or whatever,
CAS,
yeah,
CPS.
that's right, all across the country. That's where they make their biggest mistakes, is by cutting off all family ties. Oh,
But they do it slowly and sneaky. They don't just, they don't go to court with proof that you assaulted your child and your child's in danger forever. They, they don't, they don't go to court with proof that you did something wrong to your child. They may go to court with no proof at all of anything. It may be false allegations. They take your child away. You're supposed to be able to visit them. You're supposed to be able to talk over the phone. Um, Apparently, because it's the best interest of the child, they have the right to continue having the same bond with their parents, but it never works that way. The social workers weed you out of their life. And the general public just doesn't realize what a detriment this is to our entire society. You know, other people have to start standing up and helping us who have no credibility because our children have been apprehended, you know, and there's people, everybody thinks that if you've had your kids apprehended that you're a bad parent. Well, you know, I don't really care what anybody thinks about whether I'm a bad parent or not. But, you know, the fact that people think I'm a bad parent has affected my ability. Well, the only people who think I'm a bad parent are the social workers who apprehended my children, I suppose. You know, but
And the
screw
family
them.
who has your children because they want to keep them.
Yeah, and you know,
But how do you explain the social workers' comments that they were overly bonded to you, impeccably?
that was because
You
the
were,
reason they
you
said
you
that.
they had lunches, going to school, clean clothes. You worked, went to school, got a degree, and tried to better yourself.
But the thing is, you know, that they
Why
said
didn't that come up in court?
it did.
Well,
Because people testified about that kind of thing, but the ministry had said the reason they said that the children were overly bonded to me because little Richard demanded to see me constantly after he was taken away. The kids cried for me, they wanted to be with me, and they considered that, you know, ridiculous. I did have strong bonds with all the kids, you know, but then why did they go and tell Brandon? Why did they have to tell him that my bond with him was not as strong as with the other kids, you know? Because then I get a phone call from my 15-year-old son, who's now 16, saying, "Don't you love me as much as the other kids? Social workers don't lie, Mom. I know you're not bonded to me." You know, and I'm thinking, oh my God, how am I going to tell him I love him now? Well, if he ever sees this video, Brandon, I love you, and I love all of you exactly the same, and I hope nobody ever makes you think it's not true. I'd never do anything to hurt any of you.
Why would the social workers do such a thing? Why would they deliberately
Just to
try and
destroy the bond.
undermine you with your children?
Just to destroy the bond.
it's easier to keep a child in care that doesn't want to be out of care.
See, while they're living with their own father, the ministry had an open file collecting money, funding for children that were living with their own family member. You know, but then eventually they closed their file on 4 of the children, not on the other one, but, you know, one of them was apprehended 3 times. You know, how does that feel for her? How does that feel for me? And they didn't even there was absolutely no reason, and I know that's really hard for people who've never dealt with the ministry to believe, but, you know.
Somebody has to start believing it, because there's
And there's good mums and bad mums, you know.
Maybe you're just the exception. Maybe it's only happening to you.
No,
I've
we've
traveled
seen it before.
from BC to Ontario, stopping and talking to hundreds and hundreds of people. I've posted things on websites for the last 5 years and got responses from hundreds and hundreds of people about how their story was so similar to mine, you know. Social workers going to court with no information, false information, third-party information, you know, talking to people that, you know, would strengthen their side of the story, but ignoring the people who would strengthen your side. You know, it's all across Canada. From what I've seen on YouTube, it's all across North America.
But if this is in the best interest of the children, they should be getting the story right.
That's the sick part, is that social workers, in my case, stood in a courtroom and, you know, made false allegations against me, which made the outcome for my children very poor.